What is up, space pirates? This is your Admiral, the always optimal Dr. Disaster, and the Doctor Who spin-off, The War Between the Land and the Sea, has just dropped its first couple of episodes, and the general consensus on this new miniseries seems to be,
and who gives a shit?
The War Between the Land and the Sea represents the last collaboration between Disney and Doctor Who because, of course, the Ncuti Gatwa era was utterly marked by the audience running away from the show. The viewership in the UK was historically bad for this show, which has existed now for over 6 decades, pulling in numbers never before seen. Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor now owns 9 of the 10 lowest ratings of all time for Doctor Who. The show bombed on Disney Plus as well. It turns out that nobody is interested in watching this new, woke version of the character who cries at the drop of a pin, or, as I like to refer to this chucklehead, he's Dr.
What the hell is even that?
But, do you want to hear something that is really damning for Doctor Who? Well, the spin-off Torchwood from 19 years ago or so averaged much lower viewership than the mainline Doctor Who show, which is to be expected, of course, but the overnight viewership figures have just come in for the first 2 episodes of this new Doctor Who miniseries, The War Between the Land and the Sea, and they are right in line with what Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor was getting for his past season, which means that these days the Doctor himself is no longer a draw. His presence, or lack of presence, does nothing to the overall viewership.
Oh my god, I don't care!
To top it off, reviews are starting to come in for the show, and we can see what people think of it, and it does not look very favorable. Very few people watched the trailer from a week or so ago for this show, so I wasn't expecting the response to this thing to be very good, and it looks like I was correct. Russell T. Davies has killed the franchise. It appears to be dead, and any movement that we see from it these days is because every once in a while the necromancers at the BBC decide to resurrect the corpse just long enough to see if they can get some kind of a positive response. But with the shitty lack of quality in the show these days, all it really amounts to is a series of jump scares for anyone still foolishly clinging to the hope that maybe the IP can be saved.
Jesus Christ!
Alright, me hearties, make sure that you hit the like button on this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done it already. A lot of people have told me that they have been unwillingly unsubscribed to the channel, so make sure that you are still subbed. Ever since I started mentioning this in my videos, I have had loads of people tell me that they found that this had happened to them. If you've heard me say this before, well, this section of my videos will be skippable from now on by being turned into a chapter on the video timeline. But I do have to keep on saying this because I don't know why this crap happens, but it does happen an awful lot. Anyways, let's take a look at how this show has been received thus far. First of all, as I said a minute ago, the last trailer for this thing dropped 10 days ago, and just look at the numbers on this turd. In a week and a half, they have only managed to hit 65,000 views on this trailer, and when you consider that this is on the BBC YouTube channel, which has over 15 million subscribers, that really puts into perspective the depths of disinterest that people have with this show and this franchise. And if you look at the like to dislike count, it has been nearly ratioed with 697 likes to 681 dislikes at the time of this recording. And the comments on the trailer were basically just a bunch like this one here. This guy wrote, "I can't wait to see how humanity is terrible, sea devils are the victims, and for some good old-fashioned action girl bosses. But let's take a look at what the actual viewership numbers looked like on the overnight for this show. This article here is from the website TV Zone, and naturally, they are trying to spin these numbers into a massive positive, when in reality, what it does is highlight just how despised Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor has been. It says in the article here, the show, created by Russell T. Davies, launched with 2.8 million for its first episode, followed by 2.1 million viewers for its second episode. These figures are higher than most regular episodes of Doctor Who in recent years, with episode 1 of The War Between rating higher than any episode in season 1 or season 2, and that is extremely damning. The first episode of a Doctor Who spinoff, without the Doctor appearing in it, had higher overnight ratings than any Ncuti Gatwa episode during his 2-season run as the Doctor. That is extremely bad. Just to put things into perspective, during the David Tennant years, they were averaging just under 8 million overnight viewers for Doctor Who, and during Matt Smith's run as the Doctor, they were bringing in over 6 million overnight viewers. The show's viewership has plummeted down to well less than half of what it was back when it was still beloved. Prior to Ncuti Gatwa taking on this role, Jodie Whittaker's run was the lowest rated Doctor by a wide margin. At first, viewership was actually pretty good for Jodie Whittaker due to the novelty of bringing in a woman to play the character, but the gimmick wore off really quickly and viewership crumbled. But even at her lowest, her episodes would not have been beaten by this Sea Devil show. And as for this show itself, it is worth pointing out that going from 2.8 million viewers to 2.1 million viewers on a single night after showing the first 2 episodes is not very good either. They lost 25% of their viewership after the first episode, which tells us a lot as to what viewers thought of it. It will be interesting to see how far it drops next weekend with the next episode. As of right now though, if you go onto the Rotten Tomatoes page for the show, you can see that both critics and audiences are ignoring it. There are only 3 reviews so far from critics, so it doesn't have a critic review score, and there are less than 50 audience reviews, so it doesn't have an audience score either. In fact, there are only 5 audience review scores so far. Let's take a look at what people are saying about it. The first person there gave the show a half a star and wrote, "Rest in peace, Doctor Who, 1963 to 2017. And then the second person brought up an interesting issue that one would completely expect from something written by Russell T. Davies these days. After all, you can't spell retard without RTD. But anyhow, this person wrote, "Didn't appreciate the Christian comment, thought it was disrespectful, and painted Christians in a negative light, which, if anything, Christian key values are based on respect and decency. I believe Russell has gone too far with all this woke nonsense, and instead of pushing for acceptance for all, he pushes gay, trans, and disabled people in every episode. You can almost play bingo with it. He squishes anyone who doesn't fit into this category. I have been a longtime fan and collector of Doctor Who and all spin-offs. However, you have insulted myself and my family in the very first episode. I think it's time to chuck in the towel, I'm afraid. Perhaps if more people were Christian, we would respect each other and live in a better world, being safe instead of the havoc currently on our streets. Terrible episode, will not be watching anymore." Anyways, then the next person said, "Imagine having this much money to spend on something and ending up with this. The man needs to retire, he's losing it." And you get the picture. People just weren't exactly thrilled with the direction of the show. Even the so-called professional critics don't seem to be in love with the war between the land and the sea. The Daily Mail wrote of it saying here, "The war between the land and the sea is woke, repetitive, and stultifyingly dull. This Doctor Who spinoff is a travesty, and all I can say to the people still wasting their time on this sort of nonsense, can you imagine how much worse the show is going to get next year when it continues on and doesn't have the Disney money to try to make it better? Next year, they are putting out a 2026 Christmas special, which will be a continuation of the regeneration of Ncuti Gatwa into Billy Piper. At least that is presumably what it will be about, and I can only imagine how wretched things will look without Disney paying over $10 million per episode. If you're still the sort of person who tries to watch these shows, my advice is to just let it go. Let it die with dignity, and stop giving these necromancers at the BBC any reason to keep violating the corpse of this character that we once loved. But I'm gonna leave it there. The war between the land and the sea looks really freaking awful. Do you plan on watching it? Drop your thoughts into the comment section below, and we will talk there. Thanks for watching, me hearties. If you haven't already, your Admiral is inviting you to subscribe to the channel and become a part of the crew. Life as a space pirate may not be glamorous, but there's always plenty of booty.